great Stoic philosopher Diogenes of Babylon was born in 330 BCE. During his lifetime, he was famous throughout the Hellenistic world for his wisdom and once even tutored Alexander the Great. Now, you may be thinking, wait, wasn't Diogenes of Sinope? Yes, there were two famous philosophers named Diogenes, both of whom were born in the same year, 330 BCE. The other was Diogenes of Babylon, who was born into a wealthy family and had access to the finest education that the ancient world had to offer. He was tutored by Crates of Thebes, one of the most famous Stoics of his generation, and eventually succeeded him as head of the Stoic school. Unlike his more famous contemporary, Diogenes of Sinope, who was an eccentric beggar and lived in a barrel, Diogenes of Babylon was a wealthy man who lived a life of luxury. Yet he was no less a Stoic for it. In fact, he was so wealthy that at one point he hosted a symposium inviting 8 other philosophers to participate. He paid them all a handsome fee to come and discuss philosophy with him. Among them were Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, and Cleanthes, the one who succeeded Zeno as head of the Stoic school. Diogenes of Babylon was so well liked by the other philosophers that after his death they erected a bronze statue in his honor in the courtyard of the academy. It was inscribed with the words "To Diogenes, the friend of philosophers." He is best known today for his book on the incapacity of man for evil, in which he defends Stoic ethics against the charge of being inhuman. His other works include On Piety, On Providence, and an autobiography. Unfortunately, none of these works have survived in any complete form. The fragments that remain are preserved in the writings of other philosophers, such as Plutarch, Maximus, and Sextus Empiricus. Diogenes was also the first to introduce Stoic ideas into the sphere of politics. He served as a diplomat and advisor to the kings of Babylon and Media, and even had an audience with Alexander the Great. According to legend, Alexander asked Diogenes what sort of a person he was, to which Diogenes replied, "I am a philosopher seeking wisdom." Alexander then asked, "What use is wisdom?" And Diogenes answered, "To make men good and their lives happy." Impressed by this answer, Alexander is said to have given Diogenes a crown and asked him to name his price. But Diogenes refused to accept anything from him and remained a poor man all his life. This is probably why Alexander later tried to convert him to hedonism, since he thought that if Diogenes could renounce money and power, he would be unstoppable. But Diogenes refused to abandon his principles, famously saying, "It's not that life is short, but that we waste a lot of it." After Alexander's death, Diogenes continued to live in relative obscurity, though he occasionally emerged from it to defend Stoicism against its critics. For example, he once engaged in a public debate with the Epicurean philosopher Timon of Pharaoh and his friend Pyrrho of Elis, who was the founder of skepticism. Though Diogenes was nearly 100 years old at the time, he completely humiliated Pyrrho in the debate, reducing him to tears. Diogenes died shortly thereafter at the age of 110. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to learn more about the great philosophers of the ancient world, stay tuned for more videos about the ancient philosophers.